I think the biggest opportunities for crowdfunding as regards investors is to really first of all understand where it fits into their portfolio. They've obviously all got sensible and grown-up investors. They'll have short-term, they'll have medium-term, and they'll have longer-term. And they can look across the crowdfunding opportunity, the kind of landscape, and look at equity as being longer-term, loans as being medium-term, and things like working capital, invoice trading as being part of their short-term part of their portfolio. Every portfolio needs to be balanced, and that would be the key point I would want to get across to any investor. They're looking at making risk-rated returns, and they're looking to do so by leveraging crowdfunding in the short term, the medium term, and the longer term parts of their portfolio. The biggest challenges for the crowdfunding industry is to access and manage their growth. This is a small industry at the moment. In last year, the total transacted was around about £1 billion. If we put that in context, £1 billion came off SME lending in December alone. 1.1 billion was withdrawn in terms of loans, and overdrafts are no longer available. So in December alone, the amount of money available to SMEs declined by £1 billion and 1.1 billion. And in the whole year last year, the crowdfunding players delivered about £1 billion worth of money into the SME marketplace, taking into account equity, loans, working capital, the lot. So managing growth and doing so carefully and responsibly is a key requirement for all crowdfunders. So I think there are two questions there. One of which is, do I believe that SMEs know what they're talking about when they're saying that we're going to be looking to alternatives other than the banks in terms of looking to be able to fund our businesses? I think there is a growing realisation from SMEs. They are starting to understand that whilst the bank never quite manages to say no, they're not getting the answer they want and they need to look elsewhere. And the kind of companies that will move first are those vigorous, curious organisations which want to have alternatives in place and are willing to investigate them. So do SMEs understand that the world is changing around them and the genie is out of the bottle and now alternatives are very important to them? Yes, they are starting to understand this and embrace it enthusiastically in ways which work for them. So I think positive on that side. Okay, so do crowdfunders have the capacity to fill the huge potential funding gap, which is anything up to 191 billion by 2017? The answer is institutional investors are showing great interest in this space. Institutional investors who are looking to get away not just tens of millions every month, but it may be 100 million every month. These are the kind of institutional investors that will drive growth in terms of capacity in the crowdfunding marketplace. There are various different business models in the crowdfunding space. Some of them rely absolutely on consumer investment, retail investment. So, £20 and you can invest on Funding Circle, for example. I think that's an important source of liquidity for Funding Circle and for the other players that access that kind of liquidity, Zopa, RateSetter, and so on and so forth. But in terms of the ability to really scale up to fill the gap that is emerging, the chasm which is emerging in SME finance, it will take institutional investors to plug that gap. I'm an optimist. I see growth in the industry. I think the industry will grow up a lot. And that means that the type of organisations accessing it will become older and more experienced. So it'll be less pure startups looking to access equity from Seedrs or Crowdcube, and it'll be more established organisations seeking to raise equity in that way because they recognise the flexibility and the value of raising equity in that way. So I think what we're going to see is, as the banks retrench, which they have to do because of incoming regulation, Basel III and the like, as the banks retrench, that will open up more SMEs to realise they do need alternatives and to access those alternatives.